Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here. Sorry for the delay on getting this video up, but I've been battling a virus that's made me sound like a habitual chain smoker. And every time I talked, it would I have these coughing fits. I think I'm sufficiently over that now to get this done, and I wanted to get it out here. So hopefully I won't sound too hoarse, but let's give it a go. This is going to be the work surface that I'm going to be doing most of the sanding on. You call it a tool post or workstation, whatever you like. It's going to be attached to the front of the belt sander, and I am going to use this piece of 2x2 aluminum. It's also 1/4 inch thick. This particular piece of metal, it's important that it is square on both ends, so I'm going to run it through the milling machine and make sure that it's a vertical and square to the lead arm, because all the work I'm going to be doing is mostly going to be 90-degree work, so it's important that it's as square as possible. While I've been rambling on here, what I've done is I've cut a small piece of 1/4 inch so that it will keep the bottom part of the work surface parallel to the lead arm, and also I have drilled out a hole to allows me basically to keep the everything square, because I have to compensate for the bolt that is holding the platen in place. So I've done that now, and what I'm going to do here is I need to drill 2 holes, one into the lead arm and one into the base of where the lead arm is attached to as well, so it gives me 2 strong surfaces. Now I've drilled those 2 holes. What I'm going to do now is put it in place, and when I was doing this I figured, I'm getting sick and tired of having to take everything apart all the time. Every time I've done anything, I've had to unscrew everything, disassemble it, drill the hole, and then reassemble it, make sure everything's good. So I thought what I'd do for this one was I would clamp it all in place and then drill it in place. And it was a bad idea. The holes turned out fine, but it took forever, and he ended up with, bits of metal end up between the 2 pieces, and that was just a mess. I should have taken it apart. I don't know if it was any more work, but it was very frustrating. So I've drilled that hole, so what I'm going to do now is use the bolt here to clamp it in place, and then I will drill the 90-degree hole to this one. My preference is to use bolts like this to hold the work together if, if the work allows it, mostly because this is what's going to be holding it together in the end. And this way, when I go to drill the second hole, I'm ensured that the first hole is secured properly where it needs to be. And also, it's a 1/2 inch bolt, so it's pretty sturdy. You can see at this angle all the material that builds up between the 2 pieces when I was drilling. Like I said, it was very frustrating, but well, from now on I think I'll just disassemble everything before I do any drilling. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to stick it all together, make sure it's parallel and true to the lead arm, and then what we're going to do is move on to doing the plate that's going to sit on top of this, which is, well, the surface that I'll be doing all the work on. And again, it's kind of important at this point that I keep everything as parallel and square as possible to all the pieces to this point, because as I mentioned probably several times, or too many times, during the process of this build, I'm going to be building an aluminum stand for a tank, and it's very important that everything's nice and square and true in that. And this is the surface where it all comes down to a crunch, so this is where it has to actually end up being, everything has to work out perfectly well here. And here I've cut the work surface to length, and I'm going to check for trueness, and because I'm going to be bolting this in such a way that it is going to be flush to the platen, I need to allow well, the belt has to pass by this, so I'm going to mill off about an 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch here, just so there's enough free play there that I don't have any interference with anything. And then what I'm going to do is also cut a piece of 2-inch angle with a 1/4-inch wall, and I'm going to use that as a bracket to hold this onto the top of the work post. And when I get to the end there, you notice there's a little bit of a curve there because this is obviously a round end mill. At the end, I'll just do a quick horizontal pass both directions, and I'll make it square. There we go. And even though this doesn't have to be exactly parallel at this point, the groove I mean, I used the parallel I've been using all along just to make sure that it was at least reasonably close. Here we go, got it all mounted in place with clamps, just checking to make sure everything is as square and tight as possible. Can't fit my fingernail in there, that's good enough for me. And then as you can see, there's lots of room for the belt to go by. We'll just give you a little visual here. There we go. And then what I'm going to do now is I want to attach the work surface to the bracket, but I also want it to not the method of attaching it. I don't want to interfere with any work that I'm going to be doing. There you go, nice and square. So what I'm going to do is I am going to drill and tap this so that I can use 1/4-inch bolts. I'm going to bolt it from the bottom, so the top surface will be where the threads are, and then I'll just attach it, and then if I use the right length bolt, I'll just it'll be nice and flush, and I won't have any interference with the workpiece. So I'm going to take this over to the milling machine, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drill it for those 2 bolts, and then what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to have to attach it to the work post, so I will be drilling a 1/2-inch hole, and that will hold everything in place. So the easiest way I find of doing this is to initially just drill through both pieces with the smaller size drill bit. This is the one that's sized for the 1/4-inch tap. And then once I have drilled through both pieces, I can remove the bracket, which is the bottom piece, and then I can run the tap through the top part, which gives me my threads. And then all I need to do then is take the bracket and use a 1/4-inch bit, and that will give me the size hole I need for the bolt to fit through. And then just a matter of just threading them together. For some reason I'm being way more accurate here than I need to be, because this is just holding the plate in place. But I think it's one of these things where you just kind of get in the habit of doing that. And here we go. I'm going to cut the threads. It does seem to be not quite square, but I don't think it'll really matter in the end. And once you get through sufficiently far enough, it gets nice and easy, and just use your one finger job. And then what we're going to do now is move over to the bracket part, and the hole's already there, so I just need to line the bit up and then just widen the hole up to 1/4-inch. Very easy. Alright, now switching over to fast forward again, I'm going to assemble all this and make sure it turned out square. So I'm going to tighten this down, probably a little bit more than I need to at this point, but I just wanted to make sure everything was where it needs to be before I go and drill the 1/2-inch hole. So I'm going to make sure it's nice and square here. Oh, I bounced up there a bit. Let's try that again. There we go. There we go, nice and square. Next I'm going to need to disassemble this all over again. So what I'm going to do is take the post off, and then I'm going to drill a 1/2-inch hole through. It's not really critical where this is placed. I just going to put it in the center of the 2x2 piece. And then once that's done, you can see there's the parallel. I have to drill all the way through with this because I want to make sure that, because I'm going to be drilling through another piece after this, I want to make sure that these 2 holes line up perfectly. So that's going to drill all the way through, and then what I'm going to do is move back over to the reassemble everything. I'm going to do this in fast forward because as much as I'm getting tired of redoing this every 5 seconds, I'm sure you're tired of watching me reassemble this. So I got really tighten it down completely. But what I'm going to do here is I have to make sure it's square, which it turned out not to be, so I have to loosen off and adjust a bit. make sure it's nice and flush again, and then tighten it down because I don't want it to move around that much. And then once it's in place, I'm going to clamp this. And I need to clamp it so that whatever clamp I'm using is not going to interfere with that hole I just drilled. And I didn't think that clamp was going to work very well, so I thought I'd try vice grips, but there's no way that was going to be wide enough, so I moved back to this. What I'm going to do here, though, is I'm going to switch it around. Now, I did learn my lesson that I'm not going to drill this in place, but what I need to do is I need to mark that hole as reasonably accurate as possible. And also, before I do any kind of marking at all, I have to make sure it's in place, so I'm going to use some gentle persuasion here, which is my rubber mallet. And yeah, I'm just going to tap it, make sure everything is as square and as flush as possible, because this is actually the last critical hole that I need to drill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the drill bit that just went through those two holes, and even though this is not, probably the best thing to do to a drill bit, I'm just going to give it a couple gentle taps and use it to mark where the hole's going to be. And I didn't really show you that well, so after I took it apart, I got my calipers out, and I'm going to check to see if it actually ended up where it needed to be. And it's kind of cool. There's a hole that got marked, and that's exactly where it needs to be. It's kind of funny. It does happen every now and then. If I had messed it up, it's just a small bracket for me to replace, so I thought it was a reasonable gamble at this point, because I would only have to replace that little 2-inch bracket. So I'm going to reassemble this, and I'm going to put it in place, and then I'm going to put the 1/2-inch bolt on, and then we're going to check it all to see if it's fitting exactly where it needs to be. Oh, sorry. First I gotta sand off the bolt. Just pretend you didn't see that part, because I want you to want to save the big reveal for the end. As you may have noticed, like, a lot of these pieces have had some sanding done on them, and I wonder how I did that. So there we go, and yes, we're all square. So finally, got the belt on. Got the workstation on, got everything tightened down, got everything aligned, and what we're going to do here is just do a bit of sanding. Now, it was my intention to have this be the last video in this series, but unfortunately it was getting a little lengthy, so I couldn't do the finishing touches, so that's going to be on the next video. And during that one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the tracking's done. Actually, sorry, you know how the tracking is done, but I'm going to demonstrate the tracking, and also I am going to wire up the motor, because so far what I've been doing is just plugging in and unplugging it whenever I needed to turn it on. But what I'm going to do now is wire it properly and give a final demo. So here's the belt sander. Like I said, there's a plug with its old wiring. I'm going to swap that out in the next video. And it's all running, it's all nice and square, and I think for me this is actually a really good job. And as you can see, the motor is turning around. It's not as strong a motor as I would like. I may end up replacing it if I want to do anything besides sanding aluminum. But most importantly, the belt tracks true. There's no wobble in its path. So I'm very pleased. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this style of video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the final video where I will go over the finishing touches attached to the electrical, and then maybe give you some more sanding demos. Thanks again.